It's part 3 and we're going to make the bow and belt of Yamato from One Piece, as you can see here. Of course, when it's part 3, that means there's a part 1 and part 2 that contains the kimono top and then the hakama pants. So make sure that you go and watch them before or after, same. Make sure that you watch them if you're going to make this or if you're just watching for fun. So to this video, I'm going to talk about how we're going to make it and some things to note while wearing it. And of course, materials used and tools used. So jumping straight into the fabric, a white and a yellow fabric, and this is just plain cotton. It's a non-stretch woven fabric. I just went for something cheap that didn't have any shine and didn't crease too much, but it didn't matter if it creased. So because you're going to stuff it full, so if it's going to crease a bit, it's not really doing anything because the stuffing will push it out. So the choice of fabric is quite open here. Just choose something that you think is nice to work with. Cotton is really simple to work with. Of course, you will need stuffing. The stuffing I bought was from a bedding store that you can buy pillows and such. And I bought some on sale, and that's way cheaper than going to the fabric store and buy filling there. So that's a thing to note if you have really expensive fillings on the fabric store. So now you have the fabric and then you have the filling. How do we keep this shape? And you just go to the local hardware store and pick out a thin PVC pipe that's really cheap. Don't pick one of those expensive ones because they are usually this big in diameter. So just the smallest one you can find, which is still, when you do this, it shouldn't be like bah. It should keep its form when you give it some kind of movement. Of course, if it's just going like this, then it's okay. And then you will need of tools to work with this. You will need your sewing machine or overlock machine. You will need a needle and thread. I used fabric glue and hot glue, and I did silicone, right? And of course fabric scissors to cut this out. You will also need, as always, a measuring band. So have that on hand before starting, and you will get this wood done in one night. It's quite easy, but literally it's some pieces of rectangles, and then you just sew them together, and then you have sausages, stuff them, and then braid them. When I say braiding, I mean braiding. I put one piece over the other and then going like this without twisting the fabric. This is to avoid getting more creases than necessary. I will talk more about that later in the video. Here you can see that I have a black belt. I first made a belt of elastics and think, yeah, okay, that's going to be comfy, right? And yeah, it didn't hurt my waist too much. But the problem was that these ones were really shifting and moving about. So I didn't like that, and then I went to my closet, grabbed a belt that fit around my waist and tugged it on, pulled it tight, and then it really they didn't move. Of course they move with me, but they don't go out of position. So I just belt I made out of elastics to just wrap around these two, because those two are two separate pieces, to like hold it together. And then I made sure to like have them on an angle while putting on the rubber band. It's an elastic to make sure that they don't shift this way. and this way. So they're like stuck there at the same height. I think that's it for the introduction. Of course, the problem with wearing a belt like this at a convention a whole day is the possibility of getting blisters. Of course, I have 3 layers of fabric that protects me from the belt. I have 2 layers around this waist part, and then I also have the kimono top. So it isn't that bad, but you can also always have a tiny corset or something that you can have on your waist to like try to get the belt to have not one point of contact but a bigger point of contact, because then the corset will protect you from the edge of the belt. So that's just one thing to note. And with that, I think actually we can just go with the time lapse with me explaining how I made this, because I'm going to talk about the shape of the fabric and such to get this. So I don't think I have anything more to say as of right now, except that please watch part 1 and 2, and then of course subscribe to watch part 4, 5 and 6 of this Yamato cosplay. I have other videos as well, so, and more will be coming. So yeah, I think we can just start with the time lapse.
The making of the belt. First off, you just want to start with prepping all of the pieces you're going to need to sew together. You will need the white fabric and the purple fabric. Of the white fabric, you're going to need one piece that is going to be the belt piece, which I'm cutting up now. It's just about 10 centimeters in the width. And the next piece you're going to need to cut out is the pieces that is hanging from the bow. I made those to be 20 centimeters. And also, when you make this, you want to make sure that you have it long enough and that you like the size of it. So that's what I was doing here, checking the size and thinking. So now that's the first piece of the bow part, which is hanging down. The second piece, and you only need 2 of those. And now you're going to cut out the actual fabric for the bow. Make sure to cut out 2 of each, because you're having 2 bows. I made it 30 centimeters on the widest point on the top and 20 centimeters at the smallest. That way you can sew on the longer part, which is hanging down, later with ease. Now you just have to sew together all of your pieces. One thing I've thought about later was that perhaps I should have sewn on the piece that is hanging down from the bow to the bow piece before sewing it together. You only need 1 piece for each bow, so that means you have a bow piece, and then at the end of one of the white and the other of the purple, you can extend it to get that that piece that is hanging down. Now you just have to turn them inside out, and of course you need to iron them. This is to make sure that the seams are nice and tidy. This is a long process. The ironing went by quite fast though. Now I'm cutting open my pillow, which I bought cheap, and beginning to stuff all those strips of fabric. You want to make sure that you have a nice amount of stuffing in there. I used a paintbrush to help push some of the stuffing in, but once you get a good technique, you won't need that. And in the bigger pieces, you can just push your hand through on the inside. Stuffing, stuffing, stuffing. I said you can do this on one night, and yeah, sure you can, but it will be intense. Now I'm trying to fold it over each other to see how I'm going to do the braiding. This is me realizing something and not being happy about it. So as I said, when braiding this, try not to twist the fabric, because then it will look strange. Here you can see me trying it on. Just pinned it together with needles.
So this part I only cut at one piece, and then I got for two pieces, right? Because I'm just folding it up here. And for belt, I also only needed one piece of each color. So when I did that thing that's supposed to go, the bow, that's supposed to go on the back, I managed to make only one. And it just hit me that I need two of those. So, yeah, I got two sausages here right now, but I need a total 4 of them because 2 makes 1. It's Saturday today, so it means I can't get more fabric before Monday at the earliest, but I got school, so I don't know how much I can get, how much time I have to pick out something. And this is like the piece of fabric that I have left, and it's not enough, even if I were to like cut it here and then sew it up in the thickest part. It's not enough fabric because this would be 3 centimeters in diameter smaller. So yeah.
After a little mental breakdown, I just had to go to the store to try and get some more fabric. I got some more of the white fabric, but I couldn't find the right color of the purple one, so when I thought I had the right one, I got home and then saw it together with the other color, and I was like, nope, it's not even close. So I went one more time to try and figure out what the right color was, and even then I came back with the wrong color. So, oh well, but that's how life goes, I guess. So I just had to make do with the fabric that I had left. I sewed it together with the thickest part to each other, so I got one sausage on the bow that is 3 centimeters shorter than the other ones in the circumference. Now I'm cutting those 2 pieces that are going down in 2, so that I have 4 pieces, 2 white ones and 2 purple ones. And then I'm sewing the white one to the white one and the purple one to the purple one, so that I got 1 long piece instead of 4 pieces in total. So 1 white and 1 purple instead of 2 white and 2 purple. This I could have done when sewing the fabric together. I didn't think that far ahead, so if you want to, then you can sew them together now in this stage, or you can sew them together in an earlier stage. The only downside might be it's harder to do this stuffing, the filling of the stuffing. But I don't think that's going to be a huge hurdle anyway. So yeah, I just hand sewed this on, made sure that it was nice and stuffed. And this I did 4 times. And of course you need to close the ends. I try to make the ends as cute and nice as possible. So it looks like a dumpling or some kind. So the way I did this was I threaded and took long stitches around, and then I pulled the thread together and then stuffed the edges inside before sewing even more stitches to hold that in place. Now I got the 2-meter PVC pipe. I'm just cutting it in half so that I have the exact same amount on both sides, using the heat gun to warm up the plastic to be able to bend it. I'm making sure now that I'm bending it that I get the shape that I like, and I'm always checking up against the fabric sausage that I have to make sure that I don't make it too small or too big. I also made one on the edge, and then I made sure to make the second piece as identical to the first piece as possible, and that was quite easy when I had the one to compare it to just beneath. Of course, getting them exact the same isn't that important, but getting them so they look as similar as possible is the goal. So now I have twisted them on to the pipe off camera, and you just need to make sure that you don't twist the fabric while you do this, because then you get ugly creases. And now I'm using the glue gun to make sure that the fabric is snugly onto the PVC pipe, and that is because I don't want that pipe to be moving or shifting inside of the bowl. And I'm also doing it to make sure that the fabric is laying as nicely on the pipe as possible. I don't want to see the pipe at all. It's going to be completely hidden. I used pins to hold the fabric in place to let the glue dry and get cold. I don't know. Twist, twist. Twist again. So now you're going in with the fabric glue. You can also use just regular thread and needle here. I just decided to do fabric glue, and I glued the pieces where I thought there was too much of a opening between the sausages. And then I use pins to hold the fabric in place while the glue is curing. It's especially important where the PVC pipe is, because that part isn't going to move at all, so it's important that that part looks nice. So now I'm checking out the belt and that, and the elastic, as you can see, and you don't need that. use a regular belt or something like that that is non-stretchy to hold it in place. I promise it's more comfy than the elastic, but yeah, you can try and figure it out. Now I'm sewing on the attachment to the belt. It's only a regular clip, and I'm making sure that I like the braiding of the fabric before sewing it on. But you can always twist this one around a bit more if you think it isn't tight enough when you clip it on to yourself. But it's only this part you can do that with, so make sure that you like the result before finishing it. This is the elastic part. I just use this elastic to hold the right bow to the left bow. So yeah, you can perhaps just sew the bows together, but I really recommend having at least one kind of opening that you can put your belt through so that it doesn't shift and the bow and the belt to each other. I used quite a lot of fabric glue here, but it was perhaps half a tube for those two. I really like the result of this, and thank you so much for watching. See you in part 4!